Alright, it does appear I am live. Let us ascertain as to whether that is true or not. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Yeah, there's Classics. How you doing, Classics? I gotta figure this thing out here. Let's go over here. See if I'm over here. Yeah, there I am. I think I am. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. And we're gonna have a little bit of something different today. If that thing will stay up there. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me get this off of here. Let me put those. How you doing, Kim? Nice to see you. Hi, Quinny. How are you? I have not done a live stream on here since San Francisco, believe it or not. And that was almost about 3 weeks ago or something like that. Hello, Charla. Hello, Sonny. Hello, Keith Gregory. We're going to do something different today. I'm going to try. I've had so many requests to have an open chat for investments, economics, markets, prepping, things like that. I thought I might give it a shot today. Hello, Super Serial, Charla, and Michelle. Nice to see you. I thought I would give it a shot today. We can have some open discussion. What we say here today may be boring to a lot of people, but it's my prerogative as a channel holder to try and experiment with the content that I want to do. And I've had a lot of requests to do this. And as you know, I've used this channel to put up a lot of videos that have to do with economics, investing, as well as prepping and getting ready for the future. We may exchange some information that will help somebody else today. We may help ourselves prepare a little bit here, which is something I'm concerned about in the future, and the way that recovery is going to potentially look in this country. We have a lot of inflow of a lot of information now from a lot of different people. Treasury secretaries, Federal Reserve, governors of states, presidents, would-be presidents, Speaker of the House. It's a lot of different things, a lot of information to filter through, and it's hard to make decisions in that type of environment. So hopefully today will help a little bit. Hello, Ginger. The number one thing, hi Vicky, the number one thing I want to stress is I do want to keep this sort of narrowly focused. I have the Rosie Murphy channel, Rosie O'Kelly for general discussions, but I'm going to give this a shot today and see how it goes. It may be a regular feature. Hello, Susie. Nice to see you, sweetie. That we can prepare. The biggest event that I believe is currently on the horizon has to do, and I've been pounding this for since February 16th, is the supply chains and what's going to happen in this country. Now, a couple things. We're moving into spring slash summer. Hi, Vanessa. We don't know what effect that the heat is going to have on this virus. That's number one. We don't know if when we get out of lockdown, if things will start to cycle up and go up again, and all of a sudden we're going up the curve again and steepening the curve instead of flattening it. How you doing, Mark? It could go into hiding, or it could just totally disappear, or it might mutate and come back in the fall. In which case, will we have to go through all of this again? For the time being, though, there are definitely stresses in place. And we don't really know when lockdowns will be staggered. I think some cities, some governors are letting some businesses open just as kind of a crapshoot to see what happens. They can say, hey, we told you not to. We're not going to go out there and arrest people and throw them in jail, but if you choose to do that, well, you didn't really heed the warnings of what we were saying about this. Oh, good, Vicky, you made that. Glad to hear that. Please give the love to Jen. I will. I certainly will do that. But what I'm noticing right now, and this confuses a lot of people because they don't have an understanding of commodity markets and what it means in the big scale. You have to think of markets like your supermarket as really the end of the line on what's a very simple chain, but it can also be a chain of events and a flow that has choke points in it. Okay, tens of thousands of farmers raise pigs, for example. Okay, but there are not tens of thousands of slaughterhouses. Slaughterhouses, meat packing plants, etc. They're built to very big scale to handle very big inflow of cattle and pigs and chickens, lamb, and then you have the specialty butchers for exotic meats. But generally, those mainstream meats go in the way of live on the hoof. And they leave in a lot of different forms. Restaurant grade meats, they leave supermarket grades, meats that are mass consumption, low market, meats for export. Also, meat that is unsaleable for human consumption will often end up in the animal food chain. Thank you, Gina. Will end up in the food chain for animals. But the point is, there's your first point of the funnel where a lot of farmers in a state, you might have 2 or 3 slaughterhouses and you might have 10,000 farmers who each have 1,000, 5,000 pigs. And when the packing houses start to go offline, then you start to back up. Does not matter. I had somebody write me and tell me, Rose, we got more cattle and pigs than people. And I tried to explain to this person, hey, yeah, man, I tried to explain to this person. It doesn't matter. If I'm the only butcher in town and I've got 5,000 ranchers that want to get their meat processed, I'm sorry. Some of you ain't going to get it. A lot of you ain't going to get it done in a timely manner. So we have that chokehold right now on the market. So the meat that's already in the packing houses is already processing through. It's hitting the wholesalers. It's already on the store shelves. The big jobbers and retailers have it. But what's going on now is we're starting to constrict down that supply of meats and things like that. Okay, that's number one. Now, I've been keeping my eye out because the pigs came first and the chickens and now the beef. Now they're starting to close down some beef packing houses. Down in Brazil is a huge beef exporter and processor of beef. They're being overrun with the virus right now. The president of Brazil was a denier. Oh, it's no big deal. It's just like seasonal flu. Wrong. Wrong. So now they're paying the price for that. Brazilian Bovespa, which is their stock market, cratered on Friday. So they're coming offline as a supply point right now. So now the beef is starting to get involved, and there's a packing house in the U.S. that is involved in closing down now because of that. So chicken to pig, I wonder if folks are contaminated or vice versa. I don't know. I don't know the mechanics of infection. I don't know the mechanics of cross species. I don't know any of that stuff. How viruses leap from, say, bats to people and all that kind of thing. How you doing, Sean? I'm just talking about the practical aspects of that. And I do try to highlight that on here with periodic community posts where I'll snag a headline, usually from Bloomberg or something like that, that will identify what's going on. Now we're starting to move into some of the principal wheat growing areas like Russia. Is at the point where their wheat supplies are going down radically over there. And we don't really know about the growing. We got problems down in Africa with locusts and that. So I'm kind of putting two and two together. And I'm sort of sensing a situation where we could have some really big time food shortages. I was surprised 1 month into pandemic. Yesterday was what opened my eyes. I went up to my local grocery store here on the corner and I couldn't believe what I saw inside. There were no wheat products to speak of, no pastas, no rice. There were a few really weird flavor ramen noodles. There was no butter, there was no heavy cream, and the meats in the meat case were about two-thirds gone. And I would have thought a month into this that things would be have started to level and adjust. And in a lot of the ways they're not. The paper towels and toilet paper are not going to be the issue. You can't eat that. So what I think people need to continue focusing on stockpiling, having things like flours, having things like basic commodities. Because I'm just noticing worldwide that more and more operations are starting to be impinged because so many of these facilities have to operate in cold temperature climates, and the virus seems to thrive in that type of environment. So a lot of people get sick. How you doing, Lee? You have two Breakstone butters. That's good. Okay, yeah, wheat. Bloomberg had actually the New York Times, I believe it was today. It was either the New York Times. Let me see which one it was. I like people to be continuously prepared here. You don't want to be at the end of the food chain on it. That's not what preppers do. Whereas I think it's on Bloomberg here today. I wasn't much on Bloomberg, politician, but he does have a very good financial site. Um, let's see. Here's the one: Wisconsin beef plant shuts down for virus, adding to meat squeeze. Here's the yeah, Russia exhausts grain export quota in no time at all. Okay, so you can see famines, I believe, that are going to be coming in the world. And will we have food rationing? I think that's the question here. Let's see. There's the headline there. World's biggest wheat supply dries up when some want it the most. Right there. Russian exhausts grain export quota 2 months ahead of plan. So it doesn't even matter really. Yeah, corn is, yeah, we'll talk about corn in a minute, but it doesn't really matter what you and I think. Hey, we can grow wheat at the wazoo. Right now, wheat's about $6 and something a bushel. Doesn't matter what we think. People don't think rationally at times like these. People just don't think about, oh, we're okay. We got plenty of that. They start to grab. And what that forces you to do is grab too. To make sure you're prepared. Yeah, somebody might poo-poo you, but I'm not talking about going out and filling a shopping cart with 50 packages of toilet paper. I'm just talking about if you have the capacity then and you have the financial wherewithal, then it makes sense to just, if you have a restaurant, supply house, something like that, that you can get 50-pound bag, a couple 50-pound bags of flour for $25 a bag, and then you have 100 pounds of flour, and you'll use it all, and things like that. Yeah, Lee says a month ago wheat prices rallied a bit, but the story so far is going back to corn. It's a shame. How you doing, Brandon? Yeah, I believe that meat will become a luxury. Thank you, Brandon. Well said. I well and truly believe that it'll just be supply. I don't know what the price of it'll be. I don't know. At least for the foreseeable future. Now you may say, well, they'll ramp up again when this pandemic situation. There could be a distance between now and that point where the USDA is not throwing the federal government's not throwing that much money at agriculture relative to Boeing and the other major companies. So you put in the fact that the pig farmers may not be able to make it that long, and a lot of them may not be in a position to start herds again and do the things that they do. I talked to Missy Jen about this kind of stuff. She follows farming very closely and ranching in this nation. It's a passion of hers, and she can kind of see what's going on here. The other thing is corn is kind of a different thing. Corn, so much corn was pledged off to making ethanol. Well, now if you have uh, gasoline or you have crude oil at effectively $17 a barrel, the demand for corn for ethanol is collapsing. So you're going to have a situation where farmers are going to overplant corn this year and they're going to probably flood at harvest time. We're already near multi-year lows on corn futures. Let me see what these things look like. Yeah, it's like $3.33 a bushel or something like that. It's May. Let's get the September is, yes, they've already pushed September's uh, below the price of, let me see what that is there. This is for September delivery. And I don't know how well you can see that corn prices just fell off. This is for September delivery. They went from 435, what is that? 435 a bushel to $3, well, $3.27. So that was already a huge hit on that. How you doing, Harvey? Hey, Kev. On extremely high volume. So I'm kind of getting the story now in my head that we may have real deflation coming up in a lot of different places, and agriculture could get could really get smacked as it usually does. Let's go ahead and look at the wheat. Wheat futures here, and they're down to $5.32. We'll look for September delivery, and that's already gone from $6.20. You can't really see it. Let's see the long term here. So you would think to yourself in this type of situation with demand because of lousy output in other areas that the price would be very stable or very good, but it's not. That's not the case on here. I'm just looking for a long term wheat prices. What it tells me is other countries aren't going to have the money to buy that. Cotton, coffee. I don't know. Well, here's a 40-year price chart here. Let's see what this looks like. Well, I can't manipulate that. They put so many ads on stuff. Anyway, in 2008, it was $12 a bushel, and today it's about the $5.50 a bushel for wheat. Those guys are crazy going into the field for a corn crop. Yeah, I would tend to agree, Lee. But knowing the frame of mind about the farmers, that they're more into um, the mechanics of and the soil and the quality of the soil and the weather and the planting, and I don't think they're thinking too much about the pandemic and what that means for pinching demand and other things around the world. That's the best time in the world to start a business. There will be empires created. Yeah. Hobby wants to turn to a large garden. Should we or not necessary? I don't think for fresh produce things, Kim. I don't think that that's going to be a real issue. It's going to be very, in my opinion, it's going to be very long shelf stable products like wheat and flours and pastas and processed things like that. Rice. I think that are going to be more difficult. Things that are the basic staples that countries produce and buy and sell in hundreds and thousands of metric tons and things. That's the thing. Yeah, that's it. Do it. Sean says, "Do it. That'll keep him out of your out of your hair." Now, Brandon says it's a good time to start a business. It is proven. See, we tend to be very pessimistic at times when stuff hits the fan and businesses get clobbered here. But let's face it, in good flush times like we had, I use flush in quotations because we had 10% of the people accumulate 90% of the wealth, right? But in those kind of things, you can sustain a lot of rotten businesses that aren't very cost effective. Right now, the United States government is underwriting a lot of businesses that probably should go out of business. Look at Sir Richard Branson this weekend. He's running around like a chicken with his head cut off, complaining that he needs 500 million pounds to keep Virgin Atlantic Airlines going, right? And somebody whispered to him, "Hey man, you're a multi-billionaire. Why don't you put your own money up to save your airline?" Well, he doesn't do it. And he's throwing in, if you buy Virgin Atlantic, he'll throw in his private island for you too. He doesn't have the confidence in the future. Is Virgin Atlantic a rotten business? It may be. But in the United States and worldwide, we're throwing tons of hundreds of billions of dollars at these to keep these things afloat. When you have a regular non-intervention depression, it's terribly hard, but it gets rid of all the dead wood. And it's like Brandon said, when you get rid of all the dead wood in the economy, all the corruption. You're going to hear tons of corruption coming out. You heard the corruptions about that Chinese coffee company that was going to be the next Starbucks. The guy faked like 90% of the revenue on the books. You're going to see that crap when the tide goes down and the stench of the market comes out. You're going to see all the shenanigans and cheating and finagling of books that kept things at high prices. That's the real weakness. See, people say, "Why do things crash?" But one thing that people have never explored, economists, is corruption and a lack of faith in things like bookkeeping and fidelity and honesty and things like that. And once in a while, maybe things just have to collapse so that people like that are open to the disinfectant of sunlight, so people can see what the hell's going on. The same thing happened in the 30s. You even had the president of New York Stock Exchange, Richard Whitney, was cheating and stealing money, and it's amazing what people will do. So I think Brandon is correct. When you start a business when times are super tough, you're really finding a need to fill in something that can last for years and years and years and years and years. Yeah, either that or buy a soccer team. I was just reading the other day, Jamie Gertz, who was in uh, Less Than Zero and some of those teen movies or whatever, the 90s. She married a billionaire, and they were all excited about owning. Can't remember what the hell team it was that they. Can't remember what team it is, but I thought to myself, let me know how that works out for you. In the end, small business owners that are one. Did you see Vegas feed? Yeah, I did. Small business owners that say we need to stop calling government workers best we should stay in because they get a free check. Yeah, well. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Susie. In my opinion, if you don't clear the dead wood out, what can be a regular forest fire can turn into a conflagration. We sustain these businesses, and we don't have a free market anymore. We haven't had a free market in a long time. We really don't have a capitalist system now. We have a system of real hands-on socialism where the government theoretically and practically owns 40 to 50% of the economy right now. Now they will tell you that is short term, but who in the hell knows? Okay. Now the question you have to ask yourself, Brandon and Susie and you free marketers, is the government the best body? Is the United States Treasury the best allocator of capital, or are the invisible hands of a free market, are they best for distributing capital and labor and everything else? There's the real question. For my part, I know what I vote. There's nothing like the invisible hands. There never will be. You start to put money where you think it should go, and you start to get into state planning and statism, and you're starting to really red line towards communism and certainly socialism at that point. Yeah, it's called culling. You got to knock out the weak. So typically, until the 1930s, that's what depressions did worldwide. They would be short, they would be painful, but then recovery would come. And some people will claim that a lot of Roosevelt's policies that were put in place to fight the Depression actually helped to prolong the Depression by not letting the natural order of pain and recovery finish its job. See, that's where humanitarianism comes and clashes with economics. You can't let people drop that in of starvation and things like that. How you doing, Craig? Fed was established for personal gain. Well, we'll talk. Yeah, the invisible hands for me, Limo. I mean, that's it. Capitalism, free market is always in play because it mirrors nature. Nature will always win regarding. Yeah, yes, it's in tandem with the natural order of things. Nothing could be as efficient as invisible hands in terms of allocating product, labor, capital. Because when people make mistakes, they get burned and they learn a lesson. But when you take away that learning of a lesson, then you've taken away what's called the moral hazard of making a mistake. If you know that the government's going to be there to bail you out every single time. Now, people will say this is a pandemic, and of course it is different. How you doing, pocket change? It is a different environment, but I will still say at the root underneath this pandemic is an economic uh, crash, and it was going to happen anyway. Okay, it was just a question of whether that was it. Thank you, two balls. So I worry about it. But in the short term for this, I wouldn't feel guilty having a couple sacks of flour put aside and a bag of rice and some staple shelf good commodities. I'm not sure if I would plant a garden. It could be a nice thing to keep your mind good, but I think like produce and eggs can be very localized. It doesn't take a lot of production. Think about the things that take a lot of processing to do. I mean, as much as maybe Mouse Toes can, maybe Limo can gather that wheat and process your own flour. I'm not equipped to do that on the rancho, okay? I would be equipped to go pick up some eggs that the hens dropped and sell them, okay? Doesn't need a lot of processing. Things like pasta, things like rice. You and I aren't equipped to go out into rice paddies and harvest the rice. Okay, all those things take process, make central. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we don't need that. So, no finding any money can yeah, they can't do that. You can't do it. But some people are very entrepreneurial in nature. Somebody like a Jeff Bezos goes out and says, "Why don't we harness the internet to be a supplier? You know, instead of surfing porn and having yuck yucks and uh, you know the Facebooks and the AOL. Why don't I try to sell things online? Ooh, what an idea!" And you basically killed the department stores. I don't think you'll see Macy's survive into the fall. Certainly not Neiman Marcus and Bloomingdale's and some of the other ones. So white rice is the best store. It's fairly healthy, would not go bad. You can live off. Stay away from brown rice because it'll go bad. Yeah, Sonny says, do you feel like fresh produce at the store is safe? They keep telling me, Sonny, don't worry about, they keep telling me, don't worry about packaging from stores or if you get carry out food. We continue to wipe down things. I don't know. You guys in California, where I live, we used to have a lot of good truck farms and local. Do you know what happened? Slowly but surely they got replaced by corn or, yeah, or subdivisions. That's right. How would you keep, I'd try to find a cool place like a closet and try to put it up on a rack if it's in a bag. Don't put it on floor level, but put it up on a rack so it's raised off of the floor a little. That's what I would do. Yeah, you can put that stuff in the freezer if you have space. But for me, I don't have a lot of money to invest in meat, but that would be something that would be nice to have. I mean, it sounds so nice to say, yeah, we have a year supply of meat or whatever. But as Brandon said, I believe that meat will start to be somewhat of a luxury. Just because a lot of people get knocked out of the meat industry. I don't know. See, if we go forward and we have something come up in the fall, and I pray to God this doesn't happen. If this thing goes into another iteration, this virus, and it ends up like the second wave killer of 1918, I don't think all the governments in the world together could undo all the pain, and maybe we're looking at some end of times crisis. I don't know. It's kind of freaky when you think about it. Yeah, I would stay away from brown rice. Wipe down each head. No, Susie, I don't want you out there wiping down each. Hey, Alpine, how you doing, sweetie? There's the yeah. I'm trying to do. I've had so many requests to do a little eco talk, and I always worry, you know, that people will be bored, but I thought on this channel I would give it a shot today and just see if people wanted to talk about it. Um, I think having a garden is also good for the mind too, to have you feel like to have that feedback of doing your own, that feel good factor of taking care of yourself a little bit and harvesting. Maybe people should be outraged at those biolabs. I think that they already are, Bruce, but what should we do? we cannot en masse go be private investigators and tell other sovereign governments stand aside. We're going to do our investigation. What if we ultimately hear that it was our own, this professor at Harvard University that was experimenting with cornholio, and because he was a sellout. Remember, he's under indictment by the Justice Department. He's a sellout to two People's Liberation Army Mata Haris out there, agents that took it back to the Wuhan #4 laboratory. How would that make you feel? Okay, the most important, don't stab your friend in the back who supported you. That's Robert Wilbur. Cannot let that cannot that yeah, we don't, it's like we're closing the barn door after the horses are out. It's got a feel good factor. Things will come out in the end, but it will be, best guesses, there will be these painful House hearings that will drag on through the summer and fall. What did you know and when did you know? And then the Senate will be in there, and we're in the middle of an election and all of that craziness. Hey, Sonny, listening while I eat shrimp fried rice. Thanks for the recipe and demonstration. There you go. Fresh from the garden is best. On the plus side, less grass to mow. That's it. Global laws against them, but not enforced as usual. Yeah, they're just. It's part of the problem of being sovereign nations is there's a limit to how much that you can look into things. So that's certainly something that I would do that. So I know some people are still waiting for stimulus checks. I don't imagine I'll see mine for weeks still. But I hope that you guys get that. That's something that's like you didn't expect to have it. And if I would take that and turn that into some commodities to have around. We should be very concerned when we look at the price of crude oil. I know a lot of people will cheer, and yeah, there's a feel good factor for 99 cent, 89 cent, 88 cents, 75 cent gasoline. It's great. But what's the message that that's sending? And I wouldn't be surprised 3 weeks from now we have another one of those crazy negative oil markets that maybe goes down to minus $100 a barrel. Okay, I mean you have to you have to pick things out to watch that are real truth tellers. Okay, that are really telling you something out there. Okay, they're not in this recovery mode like the markets, like the stock market right now. They're in their own world of pain out there. So aspartame, there you global. Yeah. So how you doing, Deb? Nice to see you. Anybody have anything that they want to throw out there for discussion? Let me see what else I had on. Usually have a little list of things here that I think. Oh, I think I think the next couple of weeks, I think we all agree is going to be critical here as places. Sometimes it's nice to follow newspapers from other parts of the country and the world. The South China Morning Post in Hong Kong, for example, or the London Financial Times, or the Daily Guardian, and the Daily Mirror, and those type of things. And the Atlanta Journal Constitution, Chicago Tribune, Seattle Intelligencer, LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, etc., New York Times, Washington Post, Baltimore Sun, because they give you an idea how things are going. Like right now, I'm watching Atlanta very closely because they're lifting the restrictions. And I want to see as people integrate and get out there. Are they behaving? Are they doing the things they used to do? That's why I'm watching China, places like Wuhan, the very first places, to see are people out there again doing normal things. And so far, the answer is no. On that, Google offered small delivery, small businesses free delivery. What does that mean? Many thanks to Roger, even though the outlet. Oh, thank you, Susie. You don't have to thank me. Going into month close, it could happen again if this country's not in business. Yeah, um, it's hard to say. I've been on. Hey, Jan, I've been on chats with Lee Mo for years. Good friend of mine, and I just still get that creepy feeling that there's more weakness underneath it is cornholio thing, and if this thing starts to subside, that may be where the uppercut comes in. So I'm a little concerned about it. I'm very much on guard of that. What is the end goal with this oil war? Alpine Gulch, that's a good question. See, I don't really perceive a war. Now, we could say the end goal is going to be overthrow of the royal family of Saudi Arabia. How's that for an end game? Installation of radical uh, Islamic theocracy again, in which case Kuwait and all of them will just start to fall. But I'm not sure it was a game that they were playing so much, Alpine, as a situation where demand just collapsed. Okay. And it had been sort of weakening anyway over the last year and a half. And then, boom, we just hit the wall. The question is, how fast can things start to go up again? People, your intellectual property, the people that work in your factories, the people that are employed as white collar manager people, the frontline people that have skills on production, and they start to see about moving around into different places, different jobs. So you lose some of that mojo you had of the same thing day in and day out, the same skills coming to work. You start to lose a lot of that stuff. Jen said, I'm very concerned about going back to normal as I work in New York City. Might have to make some tough decisions. Um, yeah. What does, yeah, I don't know. It's, there's so much stuff to push through. It's just, it boggles the mind to think about things. And then of course we have the situation where, and I'm not going to get involved with, don't say Rosie hates people that are getting government uh, unemployment check. I do not. I will say this, when you start to pay unemployment and then you put the $600 enhancements on top of that, you may also be creating a situation where a lot of people don't feel compelled to get back into the workforce in any quick way. So we may have once we hit 20 to 25% unemployment, which we will, because now all the gig workers and the self-employed are starting to fall now. In California, starts Tuesday. There'll be another million people that are gig workers that are coming on. How do you get them reabsorbed back into the economy? Hi, Pat. I'm thinking about people I know on YouTube that are photographers and videographers. Um, will the wedding business go back to what it was? I don't know. How fast people will go back to work. Yeah, they're creating sheep with that 600. That's high diamond. That's something I worry about, but I'm not going to say it's. They want to make sure. I think to tide people over, no matter how long they have to wait, they don't have to worry about maybe paying the rent and payments, mortgage payments. Meanwhile, we're creating all these dislocations in these markets. With how do you sell real estate now, or how do you sell a car, or do I really need a truck? What's the construction business going to be like? So I'm watching places like Las Vegas. that build a lot of homes, and they're talking about how all of a sudden the home selling market has hit the wall over there. So I'm watching to see what effect that's going to have on prices. Let's see. Limo said, here's a little anecdote. Yesterday I spoke with a former Missouri state rep. I told her I can't figure it out how we'll wean people off big unemployment. She said, just cut them off. See, that's hard to do. When you give something, then it's very hard to take that away. Okay, it's a natural thing. It's people will can't believe how heartless you are, and you can imagine AOC up in New York. And thank God Michelle Caruso Cabrera is running against her for her seat. But I'm just saying, you start to have those nuts around telling people don't go back, don't go to work if you're young. Yeah, transgenerational debt, that's the least of our. who knows what the who knows what the carrying capacity of indebtedness is. I remember 6 months ago I told Jen that well, we were supposed to have a projected $500 billion deficit, and now that's going to be that's going to be about $1 trillion this year. And then this hit, and now it's going to be $4 trillion. I don't even know how you do that. I don't even know how you do it. You're going to have to borrow every free dollar. I don't even know if the world has that much productive. I don't know if the world has that much excess capital to be absorbed. I don't know. You could stay awake at night like this, worrying about that. Yeah, let them eat cake. Small business are having a hard time. All daughter music festivals or canvas shows. Yeah, see, that's tough. See, Charlotte, there's the little thing. See, nobody thinks about that. That's more gig workers out there that are, self-employed people that are doing their thing. How do you factor that in times a million, right? I thought Obama had debt down. What happened? Um, Life, another military buildup, all those kind of things. Declining tax revenues, tax cuts. Who wants to bet taxes aren't going to go up? Man, if the Dems come sweeping in the fall, happy days are here again. The skies are gonna clear again. Do 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 do. There'll be beer again. Happy days are here again. So better be prepared to that. Kind of all pretend money. If it's on paper, does it? China and property here. It's what they call Chinese money. The individual countries all gone into ridiculous debt and bankrupt, force a global new world economy. It's what happened with Greece and the UN. Yeah, they're kind of on the leading edge of that. Italy's queuing up to be next on there. I don't know, Brandon. I don't know, Limo, any of you guys, what the end game is that much spending. I know if we're not recovering by fall, if things are still sputtering, the engine won't fire, and they're spraying in tons of starter fluid to try to get this baby gone. And if it's not gone, I don't know how many times you can go back to the well and just pump up another 500 billion, a trillion here, a trillion there. Who knows? Yeah, throw a blanket on the ground. That's right. So I wonder about things like that. Like this is in my lifetime. Probably Limo and I are about the same age. We've never really seen the Fed and the Treasury go all in. Okay, without even a second thought. You need 100 billion. We're going to give you 500 billion. Okay, pushing everything in here. Everything. So Yeah, dentists are suffering. Alpine, not even just group dental practices are suffering. Group primary care physicians, surgeons, uh, dermatologists, a lot of physicians are seeing a much lower patient flow. People are thinking, okay, that's ugly, but I'll just let it stay there for a while. Well, think about this, Charla. Suppose, here's the thing to consider. Now, the government says we're giving these loans into bigger corporations, but suppose that they can't get them paid back, okay? Just because, here's the scary thing to me, just because you borrow money and have it for enough to run for 3 to 6 months doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be coming back to your corner bar or coming back to your gas station or coming back to your small chain of stores. Something to think about. Okay, money might be the least of the problem. It might be a lack of demand. Then you can't force that. Hospital can't cancel elective surgeries. Exactly. Ultimately, I think you'll see nationalized health insurance like the other so-called advanced industrialized countries have. I see that as pretty much inevitable. The state, you can imagine California, how many people were now eligible for Medi-Cal, which is Medicaid in the state of California. It went from, I don't know, 2 million all of a sudden to 20 million people will be eligible or whatever the hell it is, or 10 million. There's no way that this state can do that. You know, it's you just every road I look down, I see crack up. You know, I'm trying to find the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow, 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 follow. Yeah, the payback's the issue. That's right. So, um, that's my concern. Is that when you start really putting your mind, take one little aspect like healthcare and all the companies. Okay, down in Vegas now, let's talk about Las Vegas. I know Las Vegas well. I study Las Vegas like under a microscope all the time. Wynn Resorts still paying their people. MGM Group still paying their people. All right. South Point Casino Group not paying their people. Not sure if Stations Casino Group is still paying their people. But let's talk about the Wynn. The Wynn Resorts is committed to paying through May 15th or something like that. And you got 267,000 people involved in the hospitality business in just Las Vegas. All right, that whole metro area. That's 267, probably 200,000 people that have health insurance as part of their coverage. Now, what happens after May 15th? Is our corporations going to just say, like, Wynn, it's accountable to shareholders? Well, we're just going to continue to pay people not to work or whatever. You can imagine if demand doesn't come back. That's why I want to be down there early to get the first ground view of what getting things going again looks like. Ellen DeGeneres is not paying her people. I'm sure she's not alone. There's a place making signs to put outside 2020. I had to put my video on private because I commented on the recent Austin. Yeah, you can't put that stuff up there, Mr. Jones. YouTube will take down your videos these days when it's anything to do with that. They now give you a checklist to look at. So I wonder how much longer every day I click on. Let's look at the headlines for, let's go to Las Vegas Review Journal today. It's why I watch this stuff so closely. We already know about the mayor of Vegas. Give her a break, okay? And there it is. Some Las Vegas Strip workers fear no job to return to. 276,000 people working in the tourism. Talk about a single. There's nothing else there except some mining. What's ahead for union contracts under the virus crisis? Concessions or battles? Half of Southern Nevada's public employee union contracts are going to expire in June, just as the financial damage from coronavirus closures will be made more clear. Now, what are they going to do? Let's imagine Susie, Mouse Toes, Limo, Diamonds, we're all in a meeting, and Brandon is on the union side, and he's like, yeah, we need a cost of living raise we need a contract for the next 3 years. We need a 3% a year across the board raise. We need enhanced bennies, better, lower co-pays, and Mouse Toes is going to be like, have you read the paper lately? Have you lost your mind? These are the kind of things that are. These are the kind of things. Hospital emergency rooms are underwhelmed as coronavirus keeps patient away. Southern Nevada, 95 new cases of cornholio. So, 400 rally to protest the closure. Yeah, North Las Vegas braces for $64 million plunge in revenues from the outbreak. How do you replace that? I don't know. How do you see people in a contract? The natural thing, Diamonds, is going to be for people to cut costs want to cut costs like crazy, because if the casinos aren't generating the revenue they did, how are you going to have a contract? I mean, hell, I'm down on Fremont Street. You guys see down on the end across from Golden Gate, they got the new casino that they're building, a hotel that's ready to open in December of this year. And the addition to the Grand, the downtown Grand. Every time I would be doing a hangout down there in the morning, you'd hear the banging and booming from the construction. You have all this tremendous capacity with a much lower base of people that are willing to go. Urns or beds. Oh, that's nice, Diamond. I'm old enough to remember the days of routine strikes. Won't happen now. You're not going to see people strike, that's right. Okay. People know what's going on. Every employer in the world knows that we suddenly went from employees having the upper hand in a tight job market to employers having the upper hand. And man, you better believe, just like in the 1930s, they're going to be squeezing every drop of productivity they can out of the workers that they do have, because they're going to say, son, you see that line out the factory gate there? Yes, sir. You know what they're doing? No, sir. They're lining up to apply for your job. Now, what did you want to see me about today? Nothing. I was telling you how good the food is in the cafeteria now. Okay, go back to work. Beginning of the stream. River must run dry. Time for freshwater runoff. Exactly. Well, yeah, Bruce, this is a totalitarian stream. It's how I don't think anybody dreams. Let's put it this way, Bruce. I don't think anybody dreams in the history of the world. I don't think anybody ever dreamed to be a dictator. I believe they got into a position of power, and then their sense of themselves, their overinflated egos, plus the factor of command went to their head. And they started to wield power in not the kindest way. And they started to get results. And they grew into, a Mussolini, some of the other ones in history. It's just something that I think that you grow into. But make no mistake about it, times of economic challenge are always breeding dictators and terrible people taking advantage of people and all that. So self-reliant. If you don't like what you're being fed, go to bed hungry. So, well, it's just hard to see what the end game is going to be. But that's a good point. That's a good point, Bruce. Right? I think Limo is an economist and would agree with me that anytime you have a lot of strife and economic problems, you always give rise to totalitarianism because people are desperate for, here, take the wheel, you do it, okay? Yeah, power corrupts. That's exactly correct. It does. With just the way history proves that over and over and over and over and over and over again. Meanwhile, I'm not sure about somebody texted me today about Kim Jong Un. I have no idea about that. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, exactly. You need only look at Germany after World War I when they had those heavy reparations forced on them, and finally they just didn't pay them. Gave them the old Fangola, and it was just a miserable place to be. The decadence took over society, things got crazy, clubs and brothels, and eventually Hitler came in, right? You had that hyperinflation. People want the strong man, that's right. You don't think when Franklin Roosevelt came in, people didn't say, take the wheel? He knew that, man. He grabbed it. He said, I want you to think of giving me powers as if I was fighting a war. Powers as great as I would request in war against a foreign foe. Back in the 60s, I heard my teachers and the elders, and they were talking about wanting a strong man. People have too much freedom. The world, the baby boomer generation saying those things, yeah. Put his face on Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. Oh, good Lord. Oh, my goodness. We are at the event horizon. Yes, we are. If nothing else, it ain't going to be boring in the future. That's for darn sure. Your audience catered more mature. Let's all pray the youth learn from this history. What would youths learn today? Pocket change. What would a millennial learn today? That it's the government. Millennials have one idea in their head. A lot of baby boomers have that idea in the head. It's not my fault. We didn't do anything wrong, our generation. But it's the government's responsibility to take care of me. All right? They have 100% vested confidence that if you elect the right people, that they can get this baby running like a fine, well-oiled machine. And as I've tried to tell in some of the videos I've put on this channel, that's a far cry from 1932, when nobody considered the government to do anything to help anybody economically. Their job was to fight a war, to secure the borders, move the mail, regulate interstate commerce. That was it. Collect tariffs, and that was all. So, hey, Lucky Beans, happy Sunday to you. I'm going to barbecue with the family. I'm going to drop in. Okay, thank you, Lucky. I appreciate that. Enjoy your barbecue. So that's my feeling. Pocket changes. Nobody learns any lessons unless they come with a heavy price tag attached to them. All right, and we've have multiple generations, including a lot of mine, that really don't know uh, having your back against this wall and rugged individualism and all that. Anybody else learning to tolerate TV dinner? We have to take responsibility because no one else cares as much as we do. Exactly. It's too creepy how things are oddly similar to 1918. What's really creepy, Amy, I don't know if you saw my video yesterday. 1929 compared to 2020, just looking at what's going on in terms of the markets right now. Are we in a sucker's rally? You look ahead and you say to yourself, it's going to be hard to make $1 for the rest of the year. Wonder how Disney's going to. Or you look at a company like Nike and you wonder worldwide how much Nike's going to be pinched. So, do you know you could buy special 3-channel records that uses their... No, I never knew that, Nora. That's interesting. I watched the Great Depression documentary the other night. Every time is always a little different, but you've got to look ahead. And you have to ask yourself one question. Is your on the ground feeling about the future, does that jibe with what the markets are doing right now? The sense of tremendous optimism and, happy days are here again. It's a big divergence right now. It's huge. They're pinching supply and pandemic. It's just kind of weird. I make something like meatloaf or a few days or smothered burgers or just more. Well, that's because that's all economics is a repeat because human nature never changes, right? The day human nature changes is the day that economics will change. You're very welcome, Sunny Girl. Glad to have done it. Was thinking history of people. That's right, Amy. We all people. Well, why don't people ever learn from history? Because we don't have a generational memory that carries over. Unless it happened to you, doesn't matter. And when it does happen to you, your grandkids sitting around at Thanksgiving, they don't want to hear about that. They want to hear about the latest, uh, Kylie Jenner fashions that are coming out. Okay, they don't tell you, Pop, shut it, man. That was your problem. You guys screwed it up. You paid the consequences. We're a new generation, man. Get over yourself. That's how people don't learn. Don't forget about the Dust Bowl. We have the Dust Bowl too. I couldn't even imagine that Alpine Golf sitting out there in western Kansas and seeing a wall of black coming towards me. And I would have stood there in 1934 and said, yeah, Paul, there's the end of the world coming. That's it. So I'm just telling you, that's why things repeat and cycle over and over and over and over and over again. Same thing, just a different cast of characters. What was it the philosopher Santayana said? Those who don't learn from history are condemned to repeat it. And we do over and over and over and over because human nature never changes. People think the same way they do today as they did when Napoleon Bonaparte was walking the earth, when Nero was emperor of Rome, right? Not a darn Genghis Khan. People think exactly the same way they do today that they did back then. So the time is now to change the pattern. People are freaking out about having to sit home. Things have been tough. Just well, you know, memory fades quickly. Let me put it to you this way, Amy. In the 1918 pandemic, 750,000 Americans died in that. 750,000. Where are we today? 60,000 American deaths? All right. People went on. We never collapsed the nation. Yes, we were at war. There's something different this time. You cannot learn the lessons until you find out what's really happening. And right now we have a multi-level chessboard. We have the obvious one up top, which is pandemic. But I'm afraid there's more structural things down on the next level that are the real story here. What do you think made someone like FDR such a great leader? Salt in the swing, I can tell you exactly what did. The times you got to remember when FDR, it was the perfect setup for him. He came out as governor of New York. He had a lot of resources. He was a great speaker. Herbert Hoover was a great economic thinker who believed in the real Americanism of rugged individualism. Okay, like we can't look to government to solve this problem. We're screwed. If we look to government once, we'll look to government to do everything, and we'll lose. We'll have a rotten structure. We'll have a rotten economy here. And people say, well, but Mr. President, people were starving. Well, we've got to do something to feed them, take care of them. There was Hoover's real weakness. Okay, he didn't understand ground level, simple things that could have kept things going so recovery occurred. So by that time, salt in the swing, people's desperation was knowing no bounds. 25% unemployment. The Bonus Army had marched on Washington in the summer of 1932, demanding early payment of their World War I bonuses. They had been met by Douglas MacArthur and Eisenhower, his aide, had their shacks burned down outside of Washington, chased out of town. Hoover was disgraced. I remember my grandmother never talked about the Depression, even though she raised my mother as a single mom. She never really talked about the Depression except one thing. How disgraceful. Now, she lost 3 brothers. My grandmother lost all 3 of her brothers in World War I. Okay. But she always talked about one thing, how disgraceful it was when Hoover had Douglas MacArthur chase the war vets down and burn them out, and one or two got killed. But Hoover was a law and order guy. So when it came time for the 1932 election, you had somebody who looked really bad in the eyes of a lot of the country, and somebody who was smiling, optimistic, had the cigarette holder and big smile. The contrast was incredible. But here was the bad thing. Back at that time, you got elected in November, early November. You didn't assume office till March. The whole month of November, the whole month of December, the whole month of January, the whole month of February, 4 months. And because of that long period in there, people didn't know what Roosevelt was going to do. They heard inflation. He's going to make the currency worthless. So people ran and they grabbed their money out of the banks and they collapsed the banking system. So by the time he took to the air, by the time he stood on the platform on March 4th, 1933, and gave his "We have nothing to fear but fear itself," people would have given him the keys to the kingdom, man. They would have given him all the power, and they did. And he passed the 100 Days legislation. Yeah, Lee says, well, Rosie, when I was growing up, that's all I heard. It was depression. Born in '53, but the '30s seem more real. Yeah, I was born in '58. But it was just what, hey, Kathy, how you doing? Yeah, the bonus army was one of the worst aspects of our history. But Hoover had never given the order to, he just wanted him out of Washington proper. But Douglas MacArthur took it down to the Anacostia Flats and set him ablaze on a hot night and got him the hell out of town. So that's why Roosevelt, they would have given him any, that was a Jesus take the wheel, here you go. And he took it. Okay, bye-bye gold standard a month after he took office. Turn in all your gold. It's illegal to hold gold and start printing money. I wish my mom and dad were missing their views. My dad would be mad. Yeah, that's cool, Amy. That's my feeling about why it happened. That, do you think our money's safe in the bank now? It's no more unsafe than a government bond. It's no more unsafe than a savings bond because it's all, if they have to pay you back in printed dollars, you'll get your money back. All right. Kathy says, I believe Roosevelt was also deeply affected by seeing the poverty in Georgia we were in now, and also, yeah, I think that's correct. You have to remember, Franklin Roosevelt bought Warm Springs Therapeutic Place. Okay, he loved that. He loved that. Few people knew about the battle that he waged after he contracted polio at Campobello, and thought his career was over until his mother and his wife slapped him out of it. He was shaped by a lot of that, seeing that poverty down south, but and then again, Kathy, he never wanted to do anything to address the situation of blacks, and he. I think that was his one weakness was, wanting to steer, because we had all kinds of lynchings and things like that occurred. It's a problem he didn't want to get involved with because he needed Southern support for passing his legislation. So people went to prison for not turning over their gold. Actually, most people were very willing and compliant to do that. You could have jewelry and some other things. So some people had their gold coins beat into very ugly looking jewelry. Just wonder if Roosevelt ate casseroles. I don't know. I imagine that the president dined fairly well. I imagine he ate pretty well. We also know for sure, Post, now, is the Roosevelt administration was associated with honest to goodness Soviet. Yes, yeah. A lot of the New Dealers came out of Columbia University. The early intellectual crowd was littered with communists. How do you think Lucille Ball ended up being a card-carrying Communist Party member? Okay, it was the in thing at that time. Well, left his life insurance to warm. Not Eleanor Roosevelt was no saint. No, he was no saint. I mean, he died with Lucy Mercer down in Warm Springs, and that's a tough thing to hear, that your husband is dead and his mistress is down there with him. Oh well, it is what it is. So I'm like, yeah, okay, pocket change, take care. Gonna need to take a Sunday drive. Using her tea bags 2 times. God forbid me say anything she would get right. Oh, there you go, Craig. I love Lucy. All right, it was kind of the in thing. You know? A lot of these people had sucked up the BS of Emma Goldman and all the radicals and that crap. So it is. We could leave that for another day. But very interesting today. I'm going to go ahead and thank you all for coming on. If you enjoyed these, we can have these maybe on a weekly basis. Just fire up a little eco talk here and just try to put current events in. We don't know what the future is going to hold. It could be calm and good, or it could be ugly as hell. We just don't. We just don't know. So I love the whole new appreciation for leftovers. There you go. So I want to thank you all for coming in and participating today in the inaugural one. Thank you, Super Serial, and everybody else. If you wouldn't mind hitting that thumbs up button on the way out, that would really be appreciated. Lee, good to see you. I will be back tonight just to do regular little shoot the breeze tonight on the O'Kelly channel. So thank you all. If you haven't seen the video I put up this morning, the 155th anniversary of the death of John Wilkes Booth. It's an interesting story. Very weird guy that put the bullet through him, and I think you'll find it a very fascinating story of another weird part of history that's almost beyond belief. Alpine, good to see you. Kathy Rebuilds, honor to have you in the chat today. And Jen, Susie, Charla, Carrie, Joe, Craig, everybody else. Have a great rest of your day.